I've spent my whole lifetime where the sun shines, finds a reason to not hang around. It was odd. I was the one in the family that wasn't born with a guitar in my hand. You know, my daddy was very musical, and he was the praise and worship leader at our church growing up. And my older brother was, he was my hero. To me, he would have been the it. He would have been the thing. His style of playing and his music and his writing and his soulful singing, even at such a young age, was bigger than the universe. Well, Daddy passed away when I was a teenager, and then when my brother died, he was 8. I was 18. He was 21, and I'd never picked up a guitar. And he had an old foreign guitar, old Yamaha guitar, and I picked it up and I started playing. A couple of guys showed me a few chords, and I didn't want his music to die. So that's how I got into music. It didn't take very long for me, less than a year. Late at nights, I was not just playing my brother's songs. I was learning Johnny Cash tunes and Buck Owens and the Buckaroos and Bill Monroe and things like that, and Lester Flatt. So that's kind of how I rolled into music. And before I knew it, I had my brother's old band started back up, and I was standing in his shadow, standing in front of that microphone and playing rhythm guitar. And then we played with the Sullivans a few times, and I got my first, paying gig. That's big, your first paying gig, playing with the Sullivans, bluegrass. I wasn't singing lead, I was singing harmony, but, playing rhythm and singing harmony to Tammy Sullivan. And I think I learned more about music then than I could ever learn in a lifetime. And we played one too many gigs, and enough people heard me, and I ended up signing a country music contract with RCA. So just kind of the whirlwind started there, and it started rolling. But I still go back to this day. I still go back. Every time I hold a guitar, I go back to my brother's music and my brother's shadow and my brother's spirit and the voice that he had and why I originally picked this thing up and learned a D chord. That was my first chord that I ever learned, was that right there. And that'll probably be the last chord I ever play. When you're recording songs and writing songs, and you're trying to make an album, I didn't come to Nashville to write songs. Although I love writing, don't get me wrong, but I came to Nashville to record the best albums that I could record. So, I became a songwriter and was writing songs like "You Won't Ever Be Lonely" and, how cool is it? Things like that became hits. And I understand that that's mailbox money. That's everybody says, man, it's a whole lot better if you write your own song because there's more longevity in it financially, in writing your own song. But the first time that I ever sat down and said, I want to sing a song for me, I'm always writing or I'm searching for a song that is for Music Row. Or it's for radio, or it's for publishing companies and record labels and things like that. Finally sat down and said, I want to sing a song for me. I heard a song that was written out of Los Angeles, that was written by a lady. And she wrote "If Heaven." And that's always the song that I say that I wished I'd have written. Man, I wished I'd have written "If Heaven" because that is so me. I had a cassette tape. That's how I know I'm sounding old, and like I'm in the 1960s saying cassette tape. But no, it was actually like in early 2000s. They didn't even have it on a CD yet. They had it on some crazy cassette tape that they had sent me. And luckily my truck still had a cassette player. And I called my mama. And I just held it to the dash and I played If Heaven to Mama, and we cried over the phone. We've lost a lot of folks in our lives. And Mama said, honey, I ain't never meddled in your business, but I'm going to just this one time as your mama. Would you record If Heaven for me? And sure enough, she's never meddled in my business, but she did that one time. And the weirdest thing, I went in to record that, and we were just going to do it acoustically. And that turned into this big band, big string section. We brought in this Nashville string section, and it turned out to be probably one of the biggest hits that I've ever had was If Heaven, and still to this day, I dedicate it to me and my mama. If heaven was an hour, it would be twilight. The fireflies are dancing on the lawn. Supper's on the stove and mama's laughing, and everybody's working day is done. If heaven was a town, it'd be my town. A summer day, 1985. And everyone I ever loved they were still alive. So don't cry a tear for me now, baby. There comes a time we all must say goodbye. Don't cry a tear for me now, baby. If that's what heaven's made of, then I ain't afraid to die. I remember playing that song like when me and this guitar knew each other for literally 2 or 3 days. And I played that song on stage, and the way it sounded, I said, you're my wife. You're my wife. Since then, I've played a McPherson. There is a tone in an instrument that demands something out of you. And not every instrument can, not every name brand can. That's why I've always liked a McPherson, is because, I can get in that old Hank Jr. mood. Well, I moved on down to Sweet Home, Alabama back in 1974. I had to get out of the music city, and I had to get off the road. Yeah, the woman she left and the people wouldn't let me sing nothing but the most sad songs. I had to get high so I wouldn't cry, they hit pretty close to home. I'm feeling better, yeah, now that I'm back on the road, getting it together between making and muscle shows. This is a great guitar.